the fall of Bashar al-Assad. The world was left breathless when news broke that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, once a fixture in the Middle East's political landscape, had vanished. His departure, amidst a rebel takeover that seemed almost unimaginable months ago, has thrown Syria into uncharted waters. For many, Assad's absence represents the culmination of years of violent strife and fractured allegiances. For others, it signals the beginning of yet another dangerous chapter in a nation whose future is still shrouded in uncertainty. For years, Syria's civil war was a story of stubborn resilience on one side, led by Assad, and a disjointed, often fragmented opposition on the other. But no matter how firmly Assad held onto power with the backing of Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah, cracks began to appear. The regime's authority started to erode from within, fueled by mounting economic collapse, international isolation, and crucially the shifting dynamics of the battlefield. It wasn't just about tanks and fighter jets anymore. The rebellion, initially seen as disorganized and unfocused, had begun to evolve, adapting to the changing circumstances of war. The catalyst for the fall came when factions of the rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, long viewed as a radical offshoot of al-Qaeda, began to consolidate power in the north. Under the leadership of Abu Mohammed al-Julani, HTS repositioned itself, not just as a militant group, but as a force capable of forging alliances with local populations, even appealing to Syria's minorities, including Kurds and Christians. The group's nationalistic rhetoric began to resonate in a way that few had predicted. In a region scarred by war, their promises of stability, even if fleeting, drew in many who had lost hope in the regime. But the real turning point came not in the streets of Aleppo or Idlib, but inside the corridors of power. Behind the scenes, Assad's allies began to question the viability of his leadership. Russian support, though unwavering, was increasingly limited in its ability to stem the tide of rebellion. Iran's influence, once a cornerstone of Assad's rule, had grown erratic as its focus shifted to regional concerns. It was within this fractured context that Prime Minister Hussein Anous, once Assad's closest confidant, found himself caught in a political storm he could no longer control. Faced with the choice of either surrendering or fighting a losing battle, Anous did what many had done before him. He fled. This moment, when the last remnants of Assad's inner circle crumbled, was the signal that the regime had lost its grip on Syria. In the wake of Assad's departure, the country that emerged was one defined by uncertainty. For years, Syrians had known only war, suffering, and the harsh grip of a dictatorship that seemed indestructible. Now, with the fall of the president, they found themselves questioning what comes next. Would Syria, with its myriad of factions, rise from the ashes as a nation united by the promise of peace? Or would it descend further into chaos, split between those who still hold on to their weapons and those desperately trying to rebuild in the absence of a clear leader? In the streets of Damascus, Aleppo, and beyond, there is no simple answer. But there are people celebrating victory with parades and signs of hope. What Syrians face now is the daunting task of reconstructing their country, not just physically but politically and socially. Their future is now being shaped by countless forces: rebel factions with competing agendas, regional powers like Turkey and Iran, and the lingering presence of international players like Russia, whose role in the conflict remains both a lifeline and a source of tension. The world watches as this narrative unfolds. The uncertainty that looms over Syria is palpable. Every news cycle seems to bring with it a new chapter in this tragic saga. And as Assad disappears from the picture, it's clear that the journey ahead will not be smooth. The fight for Syria's soul is far from over.